Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be continuing our descent into insanity and uncovering the third layer of the Elder Scrolls Iceberg. The light of the surface is fading behind us now, and the darkness yawns beneath, full of secrets that are better left undisturbed. But there's no going back now. The only way forward is to sink deeper into the abyss and discover what madness lies beneath it all. If you haven't seen the other videos in the series, don't worry, you can start here. But if you want to check them out, just follow the link to the playlist on the screen. And, once again, I've linked the full iceberg in the description if you want to study it more yourself. Now, settle in and get ready to embark on an odyssey into the deepest, darkest and strangest secrets of the Elder Scrolls universe. 120. Xanmeres. Xanmeres, also known as stone nests, are massive pyramid temples found throughout Black Marsh. They were built by the ancient Argonians at the height of their civilization, before a mysterious event known as the Dusk Fall, which caused their society to fragment and decline. These structures are proof that the Argonians once had a highly advanced civilization that rivaled the kingdoms of Men and Mer in its complexity. Now, the Xanmeres are largely forgotten or abandoned, though some remain intact, a relic of a lost age. 121. Ngasta, Kvata, Kvakis. This refers to the title of a cryptic book penned by the slowed necromancer Nagasta, believed to concern necromancy or soul manipulation. At first, it appears completely indecipherable, but it's actually written in a modified version of the real-world constructed language Esperanto. When translated, the contents are mostly nonsensical ramblings about an online newsletter dedicated to frogs. It's doubtful that this Esperanto translation is supposed to be considered canon, and it's probably best viewed as a fun Easter egg, probably from a developer with a keen interest in linguistics. 122. Nords were giants. This theory hypothesizes that the Atmorans, and by extension the Nords, are originally descended from giants. There's some in-game evidence to support this. In Skyrim, the models of some Atmoran characters, such as Isgramor, appear noticeably taller than modern Nords, perhaps implying some giant blood. Out of game, this theory is also referenced in Michael Kirkbride's 7 Fights of the Aldudaga, a series of semi-historical Nordic tales. In the 6th fight, one Nord claims the giants to be their true ancestors. However, it's debatable whether this latter source is truly canon, or should just be considered fanfiction written by a former developer. 123. The last Dragonborn is Talos. There are some pretty obvious parallels between the lives of Talos and the last Dragonborn. Both of them were Dragonborn, both were called to the throat of the world by the Greybeards, and both had dragons fighting in their service. Some have speculated that, like Talos, the last Dragonborn may have been a Shezareen, an aspect of Lorkhan's spirit returned to walk on Nirn. Others have claimed that the Dragonborn could be an avatar, or perhaps a reincarnation of Talos. The best evidence for this comes from the Skyrim quest, The Ghost of Old Hroldan, when the ghost refers to the player as Hjalti, the birth name of Tiber Septim. Though of course, this could always be a simple case of mistaken identity. 124. Muatra is Venus. Well, this one might be tricky to explain without getting demonetized, but I'll give it a shot. This refers to Vivek's spear, Muatra, which he acquired during an event known as the Pomegranate Banquet. After what we will call a close encounter with the Daedric prince Molag Bal, Vivek birthed many of the prince's demon children. Then, he bit off a certain piece of the prince's anatomy and fashioned it into a spear. He named the spear Muatra, which means milk taker, but is also an anagram of the word trauma. He then used the spear to slay the demon children he had made with Molag Bal, ending perhaps one of the strangest chapters in Elder Scrolls lore. 125. Briarheart Lorcanic Reenactment. Briarhearts are Reachfolk warriors whose hearts have been ritually replaced with the poison seeds of Briarheart trees, granting them increased power and durability. The Briarheart ritual was supposedly taught to the Reachmen by Hircine himself. According to the book, great spirits of the Reach, the ritual symbolically mirrors the myth of Lorcan, whose heart was torn from his body after the creation of the mortal world. By ripping out their own hearts, the Reachmen reenact Lorcan's death and transformation, embracing both sacrifice and the raw, chaotic power of nature. 126. Titus Mede II is a Thalmor doppelganger. Okay, now this one is pretty out there. This seems to be suggesting that the person you assassinate at the end of Skyrim's Dark Brotherhood questline isn't actually Emperor Titus Mede, but an imposter installed by the Thalmor. It's also possible that this theory is saying that Titus was replaced by the Thalmor at an earlier point, such as during the Great War. This might explain why the Emperor was willing to sign the White Gold Concordat and allow Thalmor Inquisitors to operate within the Empire. But that's just speculation. Honestly, I see no evidence supporting any of this. Maybe whoever thought this up just had a little too much skooma. 127. The Trial of Vivec. The Trial of Vivec began as a simple forum thread by a user named Zingbat on the official Elder Scrolls forums. The idea was to hold a trial judging Vivec for his alleged crimes. The thread quickly blew up when Michael Kirkbride jumped on board to roleplay as the living god himself. The event spiraled into a massive chaotic roleplay involving several Bethesda developers, including Kirkbride as Vivec Anazura, Ted Peterson as Sheogorath, and Ken Rolston as Emperor Uriel Septim VII. However, it's important to note that it's not canon, and some of its content is pretty out there, but it's still a fun read if you're interested in seeing another side of Vivec's complicated character. 128. Reavers from the North. In the Blood Moon expansion for Morrowind, and later in Skyrim's Dragonborn DLC, Reavers are depicted as brutal, seafaring bandits who raid the coasts of the Isle of Solstheim. However, dialogue in Blood Moon hints that the Reavers originally come from somewhere even further north, beyond Solstheim, deeper into the frigid Sea of Ghosts, possibly even the lost continent of Atmora itself. This idea raises unsettling questions about what dangers might lurk in the unexplored frozen wastes beyond Tamriel's northern extremes. 129. Abagalas. Abagalas was an Ayleid city located on the shores of Cyrodiil's Lake Rumer, devoted to the worship of the Daedric prince Molag Bal. Locked in constant rivalry with the Meridia-worshipping city of Deladil, Abagalas sought to destroy their enemies through the use of undead armies and a Daedric artifact known as the Mortem Vivicus. The king of Abagalas planned a devastating invasion, but Meridia herself intervened, obliterating the city with a cataclysmic storm of divine lightning. Today, Abagalas lies in ruins, a grim testament to the destructive power of mortal ambition and divine wrath. 130. Lizardmen are Histless Argonians. The Lizardmen are one of the lesser-known races in Elder Scrolls lore. In Arena, they are described as savage reptilian hunters, primitive creatures once thought to be distant cousins of the Argonians. Although they haven't reappeared in later games, some fans have theorized that these Lizardmen might actually be Argonians who've been cut off from the Hist for generations. Without the guidance and the sap of their sacred trees, these Argonians could have devolved into feral, animalistic predators, existing only to hunt and feed. 131. Ancestor Moths. The Ancestor Moth is a rare insect that can be found in ancestor glades across Tamriel. An order of monks, known as the Cult of the Ancestor Moth, revere and honour these moths, believing they house the spirits of their ancestors, which may impart wisdom and knowledge. The moth priests commune with these rare moths as part of a complex ritual that allows them to safely interpret the Elder Scrolls. Beyond their connection to the moth priests, ancestor moths also hold deep religious significance for the Imperials of Nibelheim, symbolising the fragile connection between the mortal world and the divine. 132. Triangled Truth. The Triangled Truth is a cryptic phrase spoken by Boethia in The Changed Ones, referring to the hidden wisdom behind the Kaima's early Daedra worship. It's most commonly interpreted as representing the three good Daedra, Azura, Boethia, and Mephala, who guided the Kaima before the rise of the Tribunal. The symbolism of the triangle echoes throughout Dunmer religious philosophy, as the tribunal themselves would rise to replace the three good Daedra in the Dunmer belief system, with the Daedra later described as being the anticipations of the living gods. 133. Ancestor worship. Ancestor worship is a core tradition among several Tamrielic cultures, most notably the Dunmer and the Altmer. For the Mer, ancestor veneration is especially significant, since they believe themselves to be the literal descendants of the divine Etharda, the creators of Mundus. In the Aldmeri language, the word Aedra itself translates to our ancestors, underscoring how intertwined ancestry, divinity, and worship are in elven mythology and philosophy. In Morrowind, the Tribunal Temple openly promoted ancestor worship, and the practice has even been carried into the Fourth Age by the New Temple. 134. World Eating. World eating is a fundamental concept in Tamrielic cosmology, describing the cyclical destruction and rebirth of the world. In many cultures, a world eater consumes the universe at the end of each kalpa, allowing a new creation to form in its place. Alduin is perhaps the most famous example, prophesied in Nordic myth to devour the world and bring about its rebirth. However, similar figures also appear in other traditions, such as Satakal the Worldskin in the Redguard pantheon, and Thartarg the World Devourer in Skal belief. 135. The secret of the ooze. The ooze is a concept from Bosmeri lore, referring to the chaotic, formless state of existence before Ifra shaped the world. In the Bosmer creation myth, all things were once part of a primordial ooze, a fluid chaos without form or structure. Then, Ifra established order, coalescing the ooze to create the physical world known by the Bosmer as the Green. After creating the Green Pact for the Bosmer to live by, Ifra issued one final command. Those who violated the pact would be cast back into the ooze from whence they came. 136. Prophecy writing. In the Elder Scrolls universe, prophecies are not always the words of gods. They can be written by mortals too. A clear example of this is the Tyranny of the Sun prophecy, crafted by the corrupted Falmer arch-curate Viatha to manipulate events to his advantage. This suggests that in Tamriel, the power of prophecy does not necessarily derive from its author, but from people's belief in it. In a world where reality is shaped by collective perception, even a mortal's words can become the truth if enough people believe in them. 137. The 11 Forces. The 11 Forces are a key, though cryptic, part of the Psijic Order's belief system, briefly referenced in the book The Old Ways. The text reads, "In Mundus, conflict and disparity are what bring change, and change is the most sacred of the 11 Forces." No definitive list of the 11 Forces exists, which has led fans to speculate about the identity of the other 10. However, in a 2021 interview, writer Ted Peterson said that he, quote, "just made that shit up, so we probably shouldn't read too much into it." 138. Dwemer Ghosts. Despite the mysterious disappearance of the Dwemer after the Battle of Red Mountain, several Dwemer ghosts can be encountered in the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind. Dwarven spectres can be found as enemies in Dwemer ruins, but one, Radak Stuggenthumbs, will speak with you during the Tribunal questline, and even help you enchant the sword True Flame. Their existence raises a question: how can there be Dwemer ghosts if the whole race was wiped from existence? I think the most obvious answer is that they're the ghosts of the Dwemer who died before the disappearance of their race. As for why Dwemer ghosts only appear in Morrowind and not Skyrim, it's possible that the destruction of the Heart of Lorkhan banished the remaining Dwemer spirits. But that's just speculation, and it could always be a simple case of retconning. 139. The Halls of Colossus. An ancient structure located in Elsewhere, the Halls of Colossus were built long before recorded history. It isn't known who constructed them, or why, but they have played several key roles throughout Tamriel's history, originally serving as a prison for dragons, before they were later unleashed during the Second Era. In later years, the halls housed the new Midium during Tiber Septim's reign, and a fragment of the Staff of Chaos during the Imperial Simulacrum. Intriguingly, after the Numidium's activation in the region, the area around the halls was said to be filled with poisoned glow rock, a term that could perhaps be a reference to radiation created by the Numidium's activation. 140. Mantling. Mantling is the method of achieving godhood through one of the fabled walking ways. It involves imitating another so completely that no distinction can be made between the two, best summed up as walk like them until they walk like you. This process is explored in the Shivering Isles expansion for Oblivion, where the player character gradually assumes the mantle of Sheer-Gorath, eventually becoming one with the Mad God. Mantling reflects a deeper metaphysical truth in Tamriel. The nature of godhood isn't fixed, but can be rewritten through action and belief. 141. Tiber's Purges. After uniting all of Tamriel under his banner, Tiber Septim didn't stop with his external enemies. He turned against Tamriel's neutral royal families as well. According to letters obtained in the Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall, Tiber used the Numidium to systematically crush these rivals, ensuring that only those loyal to him held positions of power. This brutal consolidation of authority, often overlooked or ignored in official imperial histories, exemplifies the ruthless pragmatism that underpinned Tiber Septim's rise and reign. 142. Shalador's Lost Writings. In Skyrim, players can embark on the quest Shalador's Insights, seeking the long-lost writings of the ancient Nordic Archmage. Although the book can be opened and inspected, it contains only cryptic symbols. However, these have been deciphered by a fan project started on the Imperial Library website. Of the 4 sections, 3 appear to be encoded versions of other passages from Elder Scrolls lore, including Varieties of Faith and the 5 Songs of King Wulfharth. The final section is entirely new, containing Shalador's ruminations on the nature of dragons, claiming that they have existed since the beginning of time, and that they may be fragments of the time god Akatosh himself. 143. Black Books. Black Books are Daedric artifacts created by Hermaeus Mora, the Daedric Prince of Forbidden Knowledge. Each book hides secrets of great power, though to read one risks the reader's sanity. Master Neloth claims that no one actually knows where they came from, though some have speculated that they may be Mora's attempt to replicate the power of the Elder Scrolls themselves. These books allow mortals a gateway into Hermaeus Mora's realm of Apocrypha, and offer the reader the chance to find great power and secrets within, if only they can escape with their lives and sanity intact. 144. House Ratheme. The Ratheme clan is an ancient and powerful family of Dunmer nobility from Ebonheart. Some early lore even suggested that Indoril Nerevar himself may have hailed from this lineage. Earlier in their history, the Ratheme were part of House Mora, but that house was later absorbed by House Hlalu along with the Ratheme clan. Over Morrowind's history, the clan has produced many notable figures, including the Empress Regent Katoraya and Queen Berenzia, but their current status in the Fourth Era remains unknown. 145. Talos equals Lorkhan. When Lorkhan died during the Dawn Era, it left a vacancy in the pantheon of gods. According to this theory, when Tiber Septim rose to godhood, he wasn't becoming a new deity, but was instead taking Lorkhan's place among the divines. Tiber Septim is already widely theorized to be a Shezarene, or an avatar of Lorkhan, so if this theory is true, Lorkhan would essentially be using Talos to reascend to godhood. There's also a significant overlap between the spheres of Talos and Lorkhan, with both being described as the god of man. It raises the question of whether Talos was taking Lorkhan's place, or whether they are simply the same being known under 2 different names. 146. An-Shalil. The An-Shalil are an Argonian nationalist faction that rose to power in Blackmarsh after the Oblivion Crisis. During the crisis, the Argonians launched a counter-invasion of the Deadlands, Mehrunes Dagon's Plane of Oblivion. This attack was so fierce that the Daedra were forced to close the gates in Blackmarsh. The An-Shalil largely took credit for this victory, and now they govern Argonia with strict isolationist policies. They also played a key role in the sacking of southern Morrowind, reclaiming territory long held by the Dunmer. Their ideology is deeply rooted in Hist worship and a rejection of foreign influence. But despite their growing power, their true goals remain largely inscrutable to outsiders. 147. Tamriel Technological Degeneration Theory. If you play any of the mainline Elder Scrolls games, you'll find a lot of ancient ruins. You'll also notice that some of these ruins, like the ones built by the Dwemer and the Ayleids, are more sophisticated than the cities present in Tamriel today. Even the ancient Nordic ruins seem grander than the cities of Skyrim in the Fourth Era. Remen's empire even had imperial manonauts, who essentially ran a space program to explore Aetherius. This seems to support the idea that ancient Tamriel was far more technologically advanced than the present, and that over time it has degenerated instead of advanced. There are various reasons for this stagnation, from a reliance on magic over technology to the cataclysmic events which seem to devastate the continent every couple of hundred years. Some have even gone as far to describe the Fourth Era as post-apocalyptic, arguing that each era in history is but a pale shadow of its predecessor. 148. Wolf. Towards the end of Morrowind's main quest, the player can encounter an old Imperial warrior named Wolf at the temple outpost of Ghostgate. He will remark on the state of the Empire, noting that it is likely coming to an end, and perhaps it is time to try something new. Before parting, he will gift the player a lucky coin, which grants a power that fortifies the player's luck attribute. It is later confirmed that the old veteran was in fact an aspect of Talos himself, and if the player returns to Ghostgate, Wolf will be gone, and residents will deny ever seeing anyone of his name or description. 149. Wilder King. The Wilder King is a nature god worshipped by the tribal Bosmer of the Greenshade region of Valenwood. To his followers, he is much a political figure as a god, as the tribes answer to him rather than the king in Eldenroot. The Wilder King is reclusive, only rarely appearing in person, which often causes outsiders to doubt his existence. The court of the Wilder King is located high above the city of Greenheart. His followers believe he is responsible for keeping the balance of nature in check. The Wilder King is not a singular god, rather, it is a title that has been mantled by various mortals throughout history, though the current status of the Wilder King in the Fourth Era remains unknown. 150. The Book of Hours. The Book of Hours is a mystical text referenced in the 36 Lessons of Vivec, a series of cryptic sermons attributed to the warrior poet of the Tribunal. In Sermon 18, Vivec tells Almalexia that he intends to slay 9 great beasts with his spear Muatra. Almalexia replies, "Out of 9 you will find only 8, though they be mighty. The last is already destroyed by your decision to create the Book of Hours." The Book of Hours never actually appears in-game, but an excerpt did surface on the Elder Scrolls forums back in 2003 in a thread titled Spokes and Towers. It discusses the dragon break known as the Middle Dawn, and includes cryptic ruminations on the nature of time. No prizes for guessing which developer wrote this one. 151. Mannimarco is not the King of Worms. In the lore, the King of Worms, Mannimarco, is one of the most powerful and terrifying figures in Tamrielic history. But when you fight him in Oblivion, he's just an elf in pyjamas. This has given rise to a theory that the Mannimarco in Oblivion is not the same Mannimarco seen in Daggerfall and Elder Scrolls Online. At the end of Daggerfall, Mannimarco ascends to godhood, with the Necromancer's moon serving as his divine body. So it's possible that the Mannimarco we fight in Oblivion is just an avatar of the Worm God, or perhaps even an imposter who has taken on the same name. Regardless, his defeat in Cyrodiil does not seem to have affected the Necromancer's moon, and the Worm God continues to be worshipped by necromancers across the continent. 152. Battle Spires. The Battle Spire, also known as the Celestial Citadel, is a void castle serving as the magical war academy of the Imperial Battle Mage Corps. Hidden deep in Oblivion, the strongest mages in the Empire lived and trained here. The Battle Spire itself was a vast floating castle built into a stone-carved mountain in the shape of a dragon's head. However, it was seized by Mehrunes Dagon's hordes during the chaos of the Imperial Simulacrum. The fortress would be reclaimed from Dagon during the events of an Elder Scrolls Legend Battlespire, though it was heavily damaged in the process, and the Empire later decided to seal the portals to it indefinitely. 153. Sunbirds. The Sunbirds of Alinor were a legendary order of Aldmeri explorers from the Merethic era. They supposedly managed to pierce the veil between Mundus and Aetherius, launching great expeditions among the stars. They are named after their vessels, which have been described as great birds made out of sunlight. Their most enduring legacy is the orrery at Firsthold, which was constructed with actual materials harvested from other planets. Eventually, it was decided that these voyages were unsustainable due to the vast quantities of magicka they demanded, and the order was eventually disbanded. Like the Imperial Manonauts of the Remen dynasty, they are a reminder that the people of Tamriel did not just gaze at the stars, they used to walk among them. 154. Naked Nords. A recurring joke in Morrowind, 3 half-naked Nord warriors can be found stranded in the wilds. Botria, Hlormar Winesot, and Hisin Deepred all claim to have been tricked by witches and had their belongings stolen, leaving them naked and alone in the wilderness. This is likely poking fun at how Nords, and especially barbarians, are not exactly famed for their intelligence. The trope would later be referenced in Tribunal with Forstarg the Sweltering, and again in ESO through the characters Norgred Hardhelm and Stromgruff the Steady. 155. House Drez Vampires. The in-game book A Game at Dinner is a letter from an anonymous House Drez spy to his Dark Liege Duanane. This Dark Liege is presumed to be Duanane Ayunde of the Ayunde vampire clan. The book implies that she holds considerable influence within House Drez, implying a degree of vampiric infiltration within the Great House. This hints at a deeper corruption and secret vampiric influence among the Dunmer elite, although the veracity of the book has been questioned, and House Drez has outright denounced it as a fabrication. 156. Arkved's Void. During Veamina's Daedric quest in Oblivion, the player explores Arkved's Tower, a surreal prison constructed from the dreams and nightmares of the mage Arkved. The tower's different sections reflect his mind's descent into madness, the consequence of a magical coma resulting from the mage's theft of the orb of Veamina. Arkved's Void is a section of the tower made up of bridges over an endless chasm. Most likely, this is a part of Veamina's realm of Quagmire, where the mage's mind will be trapped for all eternity. 157. The Dream Sleeve. The Dream Sleeve is a metaphysical construct primarily mentioned in out-of-game sources. It supposedly serves as a medium for magical communication between mages, who can use it to transmit messages across great distances. It's also been speculated to be a conduit through which souls pass after death to be recycled within the mortal plane. Some believe it may have some connection to the Godhead, the entity which supposedly created the universe by dreaming it into existence. Though like many of the deeper questions about the nature of the Elder Scrolls universe, a final answer remains elusive. 158. Pyandanir is Altmeris. This theory posits that Pyandanir, the island home of the Meama Sea Elves, is actually Aldmeris, the fabled ancestral homeland of all elven kind. The theory hinges on vague geographical references that place Aldmeris south of Tamriel, which is the same direction as Pyandanir. However, the lore clearly describes the Meama as exiles from Aldmeris, banished by the early Aldmer, making it unlikely that the two are the same place. It should be noted that there is no actual evidence supporting this theory, and while it's certainly a fun idea, it should be regarded as little more than speculation. 159. Portal to Shivering Isles in the Niben. This is a pretty obvious reference to the strange door in Oblivion's Shivering Isles expansion, which mysteriously appears on an island in Nibene Bay, offering an entrance into the realm of Sheogorath. Still, there are a few unanswered questions surrounding this door. Firstly, who'd want to open a portal anywhere near Bravil? Second, and more importantly, why does the door remain open after the dragonfires are relit and the barriers to Oblivion are resealed? As for everything involving Sheogorath, straightforward answers are difficult to come by. 160. Emperor Zero. Emperor Zero is a posthumous title given to Cuchulainn, the petty king of Falkreath and the original leader of the campaign to unify Tamriel in the late Second Era. He was served by a general named Hjalti Earlybeard, later known as Tiber Septim, until Cuchulainn's sudden assassination and Tiber's subsequent rise to power. Official sources blame a Breton assassin, but the Arcturian heresy claims Septim himself orchestrated the murder to seize the throne. After becoming emperor, Tiber Septim established a cult to honour Cuchulainn as Emperor Zero, portraying him as a martyr to consolidate his own legitimacy as emperor. 161. Thalmor killed the Main. In the Infernal City novel, it is mentioned that the Main of Elsewhere, the spiritual and political leader of the Khajiit, was slain by an assassin. This would lead to civil unrest and the eventual absorption of Elsewhere into the Altmeri Dominion. While no official culprit is named, it's pretty easy to conclude that the Thalmor were responsible, using the assassination to destabilise Elsewhere and tighten their control over the region. This theory aligns with the Thalmor's modus operandi of using covert manipulation and political subversion to achieve their objectives. 162. Arniel's Endeavour. In the Elder Scrolls Skyrim, the quest Arniel's Endeavour follows the College of Winterhold scholar Arniel Gain as he researches the disappearance of the Dwemer. His experiments culminate in an attempt to recreate the event using the dagger Keening and a unique warped soul gem to stand in for the heart of Lorcan. When Arniel strikes the gem, he blinks out of existence. It's unclear whether his existence is totally erased, or if the experiment just vaporizes him. But considering the player gains the power to summon Arniel's Shade, the latter seems more likely. 163. Aldmeris never existed. According to this theory, Aldmeris, the supposed ancestral homeland of the elves, never actually physically existed. Instead, it is theorized to be a mythological construct, an idealized Eden collectively imagined by the Ultima. This idea originates from the Numantia Intercept, an out-of-game text written by Kirkbride, which takes the form of a series of Dreamsleeve transmissions. The text directly claims that there was never a terrestrial homeland of the elves, and that Old Elnefe is a magical ideal of mixed memories of the dawn. Though, as with all of Kirkbride's out-of-game sources, it should be taken with a pinch of salt. 164. Somerset Isle is actually a part of Thrass. On the Somerset Isle, ruins made of coral have been discovered beneath the mountain of Etten Near, curiously far from the sea. The Pocket Guide to the Empire claims the material and the style of the ruins strongly suggests that the Slode may have once counted Somerset as a part of their kingdom of Thrass. However, it should be noted that this is an imperial source, and painting the Somerset Isles as a part of Thrass could just be a way of undermining the prestige of the High Elves. 165. Infinitely large planetoids. It's already established that the planets are actually the bodies of the divines. For example, not only is there a god Akatosh, but there is also a planet Akatosh, and the two are one and the same. According to the text Cosmology by the Temple Zero Society, each planet apart from Nirn is actually of infinite size and mass. They simply appear to mortal eyes as planets, due to the limitations of mortal consciousness. If we were to see them how they really are, it would simply break our brains. Nirn, by contrast, is a finite physical object, making it fundamentally different from the other heavenly bodies. Each planet contains its own plane of existence, and it has even been speculated that some of the other planets may harbour their own forms of life. 166. Kalpas. A Kalpa is a cosmic cycle of creation and destruction, described by the dragon Parthenax in Skyrim as a full epoch of time, consisting of the birth, life, and death of a world. Each Kalpa is consumed at its end, often by a world-eating force like Alduin, to make way for the birth of a new one. This cyclical view of time is central to Elder Scrolls cosmology, and appears in various myths in practically every culture in Tamriel, which leads nicely onto our next entry. 167. Satakal. Satakal the Worldskin is the Redguard god of everything, a serpentine deity embodying both creation and destruction. A fusion of the primordial forces of Anu and Padamai, Satakal consumes the world at the end of each Kalpa, giving birth to a new one, much like Alduin in the Nordic tradition. This endless cycle gave rise to spirits who learned to survive between worlds, eventually forming the Yakudan pantheon. In Redguard belief, the cycle can only be escaped by leaping to the far shores, leading some to speculate that the ancient Yakudans were originally from a different Kalpic cycle altogether. 168. Wayrest Secret Painting Message. In Daggerfall, a magical painting hidden in Castle Wayrest reveals the truth behind King Lysandas's death. He wasn't slain in the Battle of Crinegain, as the official story claims. As the player examines the painting, they will see the following message. Several men in the livery of Wayrest are intensely debating with a man bearing the coat of arms of Daggerfall. One of the Wayrest men slips behind the Daggerfall man, draws a dagger, and casually slides it between his ribs. The image fades as the life ebbs from his body. Of course, the Daggerfall man in the painting was Lysandas, and it's later confirmed that he was murdered by a conspiracy between his son, Prince Gothrid, and Lord Woodbourne. 169. Anu MIDI Models. This one is a little obscure and seems to only be mentioned in the out-of-game text, more on the Psijic Endeavour. The text reads, "Representations of the Kaim, and by extension the Psijic Endeavour, are always protean values, such as the Anu MIDI models renowned by the Dwemer." Now, that sounds a little bit like word salad, but I interpret this as meaning that the Numidium was built by the Dwemer in pursuit of the Psijic Endeavour. That is, an attempt to escape the limitations of mortal existence. Ultimately, the Dwemer disappeared, and the Numidium was left behind. With the fate of the Dwemer uncertain, we can't yet say whether or not they were successful in their endeavour. 170. Cybiades. Cybiades is an island located in Iliac Bay, off the northern coast of Sentinel. Though it can be visited in Daggerfall, it is mostly abandoned, with only one dungeon named Ruins of Kosh Hall, and no other settlements or towns. It was considered a separate political entity until the events of the Warp in the West, when it was absorbed into the Kingdom of Sentinel. Cybiades was originally intended to be the setting of ESO's Thieves Guild DLC, but this was later changed to Hugh's Bane instead, so it remains an obscure and largely unexplored part of the continent. 171. Yakudan Chronology. This theory refers to the belief that the Yakudans, the ancestors of the Redguards of Hammerfell, may have originated from a different timeline altogether. According to Yakudan myth, Satakal the Worldskin is fated to consume the universe. But, through a mystical process known as the Walkabout, mortals can learn to move at strange angles to stride between world skins, allowing them to bypass this cycle of destruction. It's possible, then, that the Yakudans use this technique to travel through time, or from a different Kalpa entirely, to make their way to Tamriel. 172. The Red Templars. The Red Templars were an order of violent crusaders who drank the blood of Talos to temporarily gain the power of the voice. They were introduced during an event known as Redguard Forum Madness, a series of forum roleplays involving some of Morrowind's developers. However, the Templars have never been included in any games or any in-universe sources, so it's probable that they were just left on the cutting room floor. Which is a shame, because to be honest, this idea goes pretty hard. 173. Two Tiber Theory. This is closely related to the Arcturian heresy, which we discussed earlier. This heretical theory originates from the character Julianus Senon, who was introduced during the Redguard Forum Madness event. The Two Tiber theory claims that Tiber Septim was not a single individual at all, but a persona shared by both Hjalti Earlybeard and Zurin Arctus. According to the theory, the Third Empire was founded by their combined actions, but later histories collapsed them into one mythical figure to serve political and religious narratives. It's similar to the idea of the tripartite Talos, except in this case, the Ash King Izmir Wolfhearth plays no role in Talos' ascension to godhood. 174. Magicka equals energy of existence. According to the Daggerfall text, King Edward Part 12, Magicka is power generated by the existence of existence itself, suggesting that it is simply fueled by being. However, this idea was later retconned. Modern Elder Scrolls lore has confirmed that Magicka is the raw energy of Aetherius, entering Mundus through the stars, which themselves are the tears left by Magnus and his followers when they fled at the dawn of creation. 175. Dro-Zar. The folk tale, The Tale of Dro-Zar, describes the legend of the greatest Khajiit. He was said to be the swiftest of all his race, running across the continent in only 3 days. Dro-Zar is believed to be one of the tiger-like Senchai, and was the mountain companion of the Nordic Ash King Wulfharth. The story claims that Dro-Zar carried Wulfharth to Morrowind, playing a key role in the legendary Battle of Red Mountain. Though clearly mythologized, the tale is still a key part of Khajiiti oral tradition, which is rarely shared with outsiders. 176. Stars 3D Sky Dome. Stars in the Elder Scrolls universe are not burning balls of gas as they are in our reality. As Magnus and the Magnagi fled Mundus at the dawn of creation, they tore holes in the veil between Oblivion and Aetherius. So you can imagine the stars as holes in a great dome stretched high above Mundus. The light of the stars themselves is essentially Magicka, which is bleeding through the holes from the plane of Aetherius, falling down to Nirn. 177. Blades' Secret Bloodlines. In Daggerfall, the Blades are described not just as spies or elite guards, but as a secret knightly order passed down through bloodlines, generations of elite warriors raised from birth for a mysterious purpose. Their true mission in Iliac Bay was later revealed, reassembling the new Midium for the Empire. This ancestral bloodline contrasts with their later depictions in Morrowind and Skyrim, where they are portrayed as a more professional organisation which serve the Emperor as spies and bodyguards. 178. Arden Sul. Arden Sul was a messianic figure in the Shivering Isles, revered by residents of both Mania and Dementia, though each side tells a drastically different version of his life and death. The Manics believe he experienced something known as the Grand Enlightenment, and gathered 213 of his followers in a great celebration. Yet they overindulged in a narcotic called Greenmote, and all of them dropped dead. Arden Sul was the last to die, with a look of pure bliss upon his face. But in Dementia, they have a different and even darker story. They believe he was the inventor of visceromancy, the science of divination through the observation of entrails. He came to believe there was a traitor among his followers. One by one, he cut out their hearts and studied them, trying to find evidence of their treachery, until there were none left. Angered by his failure to find the traitor, he ripped out his own heart, only realizing as he died that he had been the traitor all along. Today, the heretics of Mania believe that Arden Sul is the true lord of the Shivering Isles, and that Sheogorath is just a pretender, while the zealots of Dementia think Arden Sul is the mortal personification of Sheogorath, who will one day return to cleanse the Isles. 179. From the Many-Headed Talos. This is another out-of-game Kirkbride text, which was originally posted to the Elder Scrolls forums in 2006. It depicts how Talos used the godlike power of Kime to reshape Cyrodiil from a dense jungle into a temperate forest. I breathe now in royalty, and reshape this land which is mine. I do this for you, Red Legions, for I love you. If any of this sounds familiar, it's because it was later repurposed to be included in Skyrim as part of Heimskir's dialogue praising Talos. 180. Hist biological supercomputers. The Hist are the sentient trees of Blackmarsh, worshipped by the Argonians. They can communicate with the Argonians through dreams, and their sap is integral to Argonian religious ceremonies. When ingested, it causes intense hallucinations which many believe to be visions. This theory speculates that the Hist function like organic supercomputers, with sap as a liquid data medium. In this interpretation, Argonians who die and are later reborn via the Hist are effectively uploaded and downloaded, their past selves stored and restored through the sap. Expanding on this, it could even be possible that the Hist are running their own closed-loop version of the Dreamsleeve for Argonians alone, and that through the Hist, the Argonians share some form of hive mind. And that takes us to the end of part 3. The lore is getting weirder with each entry, and it's only going to get more obscure from here. Soon, we'll be questioning the very nature of reality itself. Let's just hope it doesn't cause us to zero sum. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll be back with you soon for part 4. And please consider liking and subscribing so I can bring you more videos on the Elder Scrolls lore. And until next time, take care.